The lunch rush at Mario's family restaurant was finally dying down when I noticed them walk in. A middle-aged man in a wrinkled business suit and a teenage girl, maybe 15 or 16, with long dark hair that fell across her face like a curtain she was hiding behind. At first glance, they seemed normal enough, unremarkable even. Father and daughter grabbing a late lunch, I assumed. Just another table in a day full of tables, another order in an endless stream of orders. I grabbed 2 menus from the hostess stand, tucked my order pad into my apron pocket, and approached with my practiced smile, the one I'd perfected over 5 years of serving pasta and taking orders from hungry customers who barely saw me as human. "Welcome to Mario's. Just the 2 of you today?" I kept my voice bright and professional, already mentally calculating how this table would fit into my section's rhythm, whether they'd be quick or linger, good tippers or stiff me like so many others did. The man nodded curtly, not making eye contact with me, his gaze darting around the restaurant like he was cataloging exits and cameras. "Booth in the back." His voice was sharp, commanding, the kind of tone that expected immediate obedience and had probably never been told no in his life. Something about it made the hair on the back of my neck stand up, that primal instinct that whispers when something's wrong. But I dismissed it quickly, pushed it down like I always did. Lots of customers were demanding, rude even. That's just how some people were, especially during lunch rush when everyone thought their meal was the most important thing happening in the world. I led them to a corner booth, the quietest spot in the restaurant, tucked away from the few remaining lunch customers who were finishing their meals and chatting over coffee. Away from the windows, away from the main dining area, isolated. As I set down the menus, I noticed the girl hadn't looked up once, not even a glance at her surroundings. Her shoulders were hunched inward, protective, her hands clasped tightly in her lap like she was trying to make herself as small as possible. Her breathing seemed shallow, rapid. Teenagers could be moody, I reminded myself, thinking of my own daughter's occasional sullen silences. Maybe they'd had an argument in the car about grades or boys or curfews. Maybe she was grounded and didn't want to be here, forced into this lunch when she'd rather be with her friends. Still, something felt off in a way I couldn't quite name, a wrongness that settled in my gut like a stone. "Can I start you folks with some drinks?" I pulled out my order pad, pen poised. "2 Cokes," the man said, before the girl could even open her mouth. He placed his hand on the table between them, fingers drumming impatiently. "We're in a hurry." "Of course, I'll be right back with those." I turned to leave, but then I saw it. The girl's hand moved, just slightly, her fingers forming a gesture I almost missed. Her thumb tucked between her index and middle finger, hand tilted downward. It was subtle, hidden below the table's edge where the man couldn't see, but deliberate. My heart skipped a beat. I'd seen that signal before on a viral social media post about signs someone might be in distress. The signal for help gesture created for victims who couldn't safely ask for assistance out loud. My mind raced. Was I reading too much into this? But the girl's eyes, when they briefly met mine, were wide with fear. Not teenage angst, not embarrassment. Fear. I forced my expression to remain neutral. "2 Cokes, coming right up. Take your time looking at the menu." My voice didn't waver, but my hands shook as I walked back toward the kitchen. I could feel the man's eyes on my back, watching, assessing. In the kitchen, I found Tony, our manager, checking inventory. He was a burly ex-cop who'd opened the restaurant with his wife after retiring from the force. If anyone would know what to do, it was him. "Tony, I need you to come here. Now." The urgency in my whisper made him look up immediately. "What's wrong, Sarah?" "Table 12. The man and the teenage girl. Something's very wrong." I quickly explained what I'd seen, the signal, the fear in the girl's eyes, the way the man wouldn't let her speak. Tony's expression darkened, his cop instincts clearly kicking in. "Okay, here's what we're going to do. You're going to bring those drinks and act completely normal. I'm going to call the police, but we need to keep them here until officers arrive. Can you do that?" His steady voice calmed my racing heart slightly. I nodded, filling 2 glasses with Coke, my hands still trembling. When I returned to the booth, I set the drinks down carefully. "Have you had a chance to look at the menu?" The man ordered for both of them again. Spaghetti and meatballs for himself, a salad for the girl. "She's on a diet," he added, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. The girl flinched almost imperceptibly. Great choices. We make our marinara sauce fresh daily. I hesitated, then took a calculated risk. Miss, would you like any dressing on that salad? We have ranch, Italian, balsamic. She'll have Italian, the man interrupted sharply, his hand moving closer to the girl's arm in what might have looked like a casual gesture, but felt like a warning. The girl's lips trembled, but she nodded silently. Up close now, I could see other things I'd missed before. A bruise on her wrist, poorly covered with a bracelet. The way she kept her body angled away from the man. The phone on the table, positioned where he could see the screen, not her. This wasn't a father and daughter. This was a prison guard and his captive. Back in the kitchen, Tony pulled me aside. Police are on their way, but it'll be 10 to 15 minutes. We need to stall. I've got Miguel and Carlos aware of the situation. They're ready if things go south. Miguel, our cook, was former military. Carlos, the dishwasher, was built like a linebacker. Between them and Tony, we had some muscle if needed. I prepared their order slowly, deliberately. Every extra minute was a minute closer to help arriving. When I brought the food out, I accidentally brought the wrong dressing. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'll grab the Italian right away. Another 30 seconds bought. The man was getting agitated. He kept checking his phone, looking toward the door. Whatever his plan was, he was on a timeline. The girl had barely touched her salad, just pushed lettuce around her plate with shaking hands. At one point, when the man looked down at his phone, she mouthed 2 words to me. Help me. My heart broke. She was so young, so scared. I thought about my own daughter at home, safe with my mother while I worked. What if this was her? What if some monster had taken her and no one had noticed? I had to do something more. I approached the table again with a water pitcher. Refills, as I poured water into the man's glass. I made eye contact with the girl. I nodded, just once, trying to convey that I understood, that help was coming, that she wasn't alone. A single tear rolled down her cheek. Is there a problem? The man's voice was cold, suspicious. He'd caught the exchange. No problem at all, sir. Just making sure you're enjoying everything. I kept my voice steady, professional. Can I get you anything else? The check, now. He was done waiting. His hand gripped the girl's wrist under the table. I could see his knuckles white with pressure, see her wince in pain. Of course, I'll total that right up. I walked away, my mind racing. The police weren't here yet. If he left with her, we might never see her again. I caught Tony's eye across the restaurant and shook my head slightly. He understood immediately. Tony approached the table with a smile. Folks, I'm the manager here. I just wanted to personally make sure everything was to your satisfaction today. His voice was friendly, but his body blocked the aisle, making it impossible for them to leave easily. Everything was fine. We need to go. The man was standing now, pulling the girl up with him. Of course. But first I have to ask, did you find our special today appealing? We're featuring it in our new menu and I'm gathering feedback. Tony was improvising, buying time, his large frame casually positioned between them and the exit. The man's face reddened. I said we need to go, move. That's when I heard it, the sound of sirens approaching. The man heard them too. His eyes went wild, desperate. He yanked the girl toward him, and suddenly there was a knife in his hand, pulled from who knows where. Nobody move, we're walking out of here. Try to stop us and the girl gets hurt. The restaurant went silent. The few remaining customers gasped. But Tony didn't move, didn't back down. You don't want to do this. There's nowhere to go. The police are already outside. The only way this ends well for anyone is if you put the knife down and let the girl go. Miguel had emerged from the kitchen, positioning himself by the side exit. Carlos appeared from the dining room, blocking another route. The man was surrounded, but that made him more dangerous. The knife trembled at the girl's throat, close enough to draw a thin line of blood. I'll do it, he screamed. I'll kill her right here. The girl was crying now, full sobs that shook her whole body. My maternal instincts overrode my fear. Please, I said, stepping forward with my hands raised. Please don't hurt her. She's just a child. Whatever you want, whatever you need, it's not worth this. Let her go. You don't understand, he said, and for a moment, something cracked in his voice. I need the ransom. Her father has millions, millions. I just need her father to pay, and then everyone walks away. So this was a kidnapping. This poor girl had been taken from her family, held for ransom, and now she was seconds away from dying in a restaurant because I'd tried to help her. My stomach twisted with guilt and fear. Her father will pay, I said, keeping my voice calm, soothing, like I was talking to a frightened patient. But not if you hurt her. You hurt her, there's no money, no walking away. There's only murder charges. But if you let her go now, if you surrender, that's different. That's something a lawyer can work with. The front door burst open. Police officers flooded in, weapons drawn. Drop the knife, let the girl go, now. Everything happened so fast. The man's attention flickered to the police for just a second. Tony lunged forward, his retired cop training taking over. Miguel came from the side. The knife clattered to the floor. The girl broke free, running toward me. I caught her as she collapsed, holding her tight while she sobbed into my shoulder. She was safe. Finally, impossibly, she was safe. The man was on the ground, officers cuffing him, reading him his rights. More police were arriving, along with paramedics. An officer approached me gently. Ma'am, I'm going to need to take her now. We need to check her for injuries and get her statement. The girl looked up at me, her face tear-streaked and terrified. Don't leave me. I'll be right here, I promised. I'm not going anywhere. You're safe now. I promise you're safe. A female officer knelt beside us. Sweetheart, my name is Officer Martinez. We've already contacted your family. Your father is on his way. He's been looking for you for 3 days. He never stopped looking. You're going home. The girl's face crumpled with relief and exhaustion. As the paramedics led her away to the ambulance, she turned back once more. Thank you, she whispered. You saved my life. After she left, I stood in the middle of the restaurant, shaking from head to toe. Tony wrapped an arm around my shoulders. You did good, Sarah. Real good. That girl is alive because you paid attention, because you trusted your instincts. The police took our statements, praised our handling of the situation, told us we'd likely be called as witnesses. The restaurant closed early that day. None of us could go back to serving pasta like nothing had happened. I went home and held my own daughter for hours, crying into her hair, grateful beyond words that she was safe, that every child wasn't as lucky as we were. The story made the local news. Waitress and restaurant staff rescue kidnapped teen. They interviewed Tony, got footage of the restaurant, but kept my name out of it at my request. I didn't want to be famous. I just wanted to forget the terror of that knife at that girl's throat, the sound of her sobs, the feeling of helplessness mixed with determination. A week passed. I was back at work, trying to find my rhythm again, though I found myself watching customers more carefully now, looking for signs I might have missed before. It was a Tuesday afternoon, slow and quiet, when a man walked in. He was tall, early 40s, with graying temples and expensive clothes that screamed money. But his eyes were what struck me. They were exhausted, haunted, like someone who'd been to hell and barely made it back. He approached me at the hostess stand. Are you Sarah? Sarah Mitchell. My defenses went up immediately. Who's asking? My name is David Thornton. I'm Emma's father, the girl you saved. Emma, I hadn't known her name during the ordeal. Hearing it now made her real in a new way, more than just the girl from that terrible day. Mr. Thornton, how is she? How is Emma? His eyes filled with tears. She's home, she's safe. She's in therapy, but she's safe, and that's because of you. His voice broke. I've been searching for you all week. The police wouldn't give me your name, said you wanted privacy. But I hired an investigator. I hope that doesn't upset you. I needed to meet you, to thank you properly. You didn't need to do that. I'm just glad she's okay. No, his voice was firm. You don't understand. That man took my daughter from her school 3 days before you found her. 3 days she was with him, terrified, hurt, not knowing if she'd ever see me again. Her mother, my wife, died 2 years ago. Emma is all I have left in this world. Everything. And you gave her back to me. The raw emotion in his voice brought tears to my eyes. I just did what anyone would do. That's not true, and you know it. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. I want to give you something, a reward. I know money can't really repay saving someone's life, but please let me do this." I looked at the envelope, thick with what must have been a substantial amount of cash. Part of me wanted to refuse, to say that doing the right thing didn't deserve payment. But I was a single mother working as a waitress, living paycheck to paycheck. My daughter needed new shoes, we were behind on rent, and my car needed repairs I'd been putting off. Pride was a luxury I couldn't afford. "That's very generous of you, Mr. Thornton." "David, please. And it's not generous, it's necessary. May I sit? I'd like to talk to you for a moment if you have time." I led him to a booth, the same booth where Emma and her kidnapper had sat a week ago. He noticed, his face paling slightly. "This is where?" "Yes, I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking." "No, it's okay. Maybe it's fitting." He sat across from me, his hands folded on the table. "Sarah, the money in that envelope is $50,000. I nearly choked. 50,000, that's too much, I can't. "It's not enough. Not nearly enough. My daughter is alive because you were observant, because you were brave, because you risked your life to keep her safe. $50,000 is a fraction of what that's worth to me." He leaned forward. "But I want to offer you something more. I own a tech company in the city. We have a significant HR department, and I know from the investigators' report that you have a degree in business administration that you've never been able to use because of circumstances." He was right. I'd gotten pregnant during my senior year of college, and between raising my daughter and working to support us, my degree had gathered dust. "How did you?" "I know it's intrusive. I apologize. But I want to offer you a job. A real job with a real salary, benefits, retirement, everything. You'd start as an HR coordinator, but there's room for advancement. You're clearly intelligent, observant, and good under pressure. Skills like that are valuable." I stared at him, unable to process what I was hearing. "Mr. Thornton, David, I don't know what to say." "Say you'll think about it. No pressure, no obligation, just think about it." He slid a business card across the table. "My personal number is on there. Call me when you're ready." Over the next few weeks, David called me several times. At first, the conversations were ostensibly to check on how I was doing, to see if I'd considered his job offer, professional and courteous. But slowly, inevitably, they always drifted beyond business into something more personal, more real. He asked about my daughter, Lily, wanting to know everything about her. What she liked to read, what made her laugh, whether she was adjusting well to the attention our story had brought. I could hear genuine interest in his voice, not the polite small talk of someone trying to be nice, but the real curiosity of someone who actually cared about the answer. I asked about Emma, carefully at first, not wanting to intrude on their privacy or push into painful territory. But David opened up, sharing details of her recovery that made my heart ache and swell with pride simultaneously. She was in therapy twice a week, he told me, working through the trauma of those 3 days. She had nightmares still, woke up screaming sometimes, convinced she was back in that van where he'd kept her. But she was also strong, resilient, determined not to let what happened define her entire life. She'd asked about me, he said, wanted to know if I was okay, if I'd been scared too. The fact that this girl who'd been through hell was worried about me made tears spring to my eyes. We talked about loss, the kind of deep, painful loss that reshapes who you are. David spoke about his wife, Caroline, how she died of cancer 2 years ago after a brutal 8-month battle. How Emma had watched her mother waste away, and how it had changed her from a carefree child into someone far too familiar with mortality. How he'd thrown himself into work afterward, because sitting in their empty house was unbearable, every room full of memories he couldn't face. His voice cracked when he talked about her, and I found myself wanting to reach through the phone and hold him, to tell him I understood. I told him about my ex-husband, Marcus, though calling him a husband felt generous. He'd left when Lily was 6 months old, said he wasn't ready to be a father, wasn't ready for responsibility. The last I'd heard, he was living in California with a new girlfriend, no children, no obligations, exactly the life he'd wanted. I'd raised Lily alone, worked double shifts, sacrificed everything to give her a stable life. The loneliness of single parenthood, the weight of being the only one who would catch your child if they fell, was something I'd carried for so long I'd forgotten it wasn't normal. But talking to David, I didn't feel alone. We shared something deeper than romantic interest or physical attraction. We were two people who'd been broken by life and were trying to figure out how to be whole again. We talked about hope, about rebuilding, about finding joy after trauma. He told me about taking Emma to the beach last weekend, the first time she'd smiled genuinely since the kidnapping. I told him about Lily's piano recital, how proud I'd been watching her perform, how those small moments of normalcy felt like victories. I found myself looking forward to his calls with an intensity that surprised me. My phone would ring, his name would appear on the screen, and my heart would do this little flip that made me feel like a teenager instead of a 32-year-old single mother. I loved his calm voice, the way it could shift from serious to playful in a heartbeat. I loved his dry humor, the unexpected jokes that made me laugh out loud during my breaks at the restaurant. But most of all, I loved the way he listened. Really listened. Like what I said actually mattered, like my thoughts and feelings and experiences were valuable, not just background noise to fill silence. When he asked me to dinner to discuss the job offer in detail, I said yes immediately, then spent the next 3 days panicking about what to wear. It was supposed to be professional, I told myself. A business dinner. But I found myself trying on 6 different outfits, doing my makeup with more care than I had in years, hoping desperately that it might be something more. That dinner changed everything. We met at a small Italian restaurant downtown, intimate but not romantic, neutral territory. David arrived first, standing when I walked in, his face lighting up in a way that made my stomach flip. We ordered wine, opened menus, started discussing the position he'd offered. But within 20 minutes, we'd abandoned all pretense of business. We talked about our childhoods, our dreams, the things we'd wanted to be before life had other plans. He told me about starting his company in his garage, about the years of struggle before success. I told him about my semester abroad in college, the art and culture I'd fallen in love with, the travel bug I'd never been able to satisfy on a waitress's salary. 3 hours passed like minutes. The restaurant staff was giving us subtle hints that they wanted to close, and we were still talking, still laughing, still discovering new layers to each other. When he walked me to my car, there was a moment where we stood in the parking lot, the streetlight casting shadows across his face, and I thought he might kiss me. Instead, he took my hand, squeezed it gently, and said, "I'd like to do this again, not to discuss the job, just to see you. Would that be okay?" My heart soared. Yes, I'd really like that. When he asked me to dinner again 2 days later, this time clearly as a date and not a business meeting, I surprised myself by being excited rather than nervous. We went to a steakhouse, dressed up, treated it like the real first date it was. He told me I looked beautiful. I blushed like I hadn't blushed in a decade. We held hands across the table. We shared dessert. We kissed goodnight in the parking lot, and it felt like coming home to a place I'd never been before. By our third date, over wine and pasta at an upscale restaurant nothing like Mario's, I finally voiced the fear that had been building in my chest. "This is crazy," I told him, setting down my wine glass with a slightly shaking hand. "We met under the worst circumstances imaginable. Your daughter almost died. I was just doing my job, and now we're, what, dating, falling for each other. It feels too fast, too intense, too much like we're building something on a foundation of trauma." David was quiet for a moment, his eyes searching my face. Then he reached across the table, taking my hand in both of his touch warm and steady. "But she didn't," he said softly. "Emma didn't die. She lived because of you. And Sarah, I know this is fast. I know it's complicated. I know there are 1,000 reasons we should slow down or walk away or pretend this is just gratitude on my part. But when I almost lost Emma, when I spent those 3 days thinking I'd never see her again, it changed how I see everything." He squeezed my hand, his voice thick with emotion. "Life is too short to ignore real connection when you find it. Too short to let fear stop you from reaching for happiness. Too short to pretend we don't feel what we clearly feel. And this, what's happening between us, this is real. I can feel it in every conversation, every moment we spend together. You're not just the woman who saved my daughter. You're the woman I want to know everything about. The woman I think about when I wake up and before I go to sleep. Tell me you feel it too. Please tell me I'm not alone in this." I did. God help me, I did. This man who was so far outside my world, who should have been nothing more than a grateful parent I'd helped, had somehow become essential to me in the span of a few weeks. essential in a way that terrified and thrilled me simultaneously. I feel it, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. But I'm scared. I'm scared of moving too fast, of this being some kind of trauma bond that will fade when the dust settles and reality sets in. I'm scared of my daughter getting attached to you and Emma, and then losing you both if this doesn't work out. I'm scared of not being enough for someone like you. Then we'll take it slow, he promised, his thumbs tracing circles on the back of my hand. As slow as you need. We'll be careful with Lily, with Emma, with ourselves. We'll build this right one day at a time. But Sarah, I'm not going anywhere. You saved my daughter's life. You gave me back my reason for living when I thought everything good in my world was gone. Whether we're friends or something more, I'm going to be in your life from now on, if you'll let me. Because I can't imagine my world without you in it anymore. Tears spilled down my cheeks and I didn't bother wiping them away. Okay, I whispered. Okay, let's see where this goes. 3 months later, I accepted the job at his company. 6 months after that, he asked me to move in with him. Emma, who had bonded with me during her recovery, helped him set up the proposal, complete with flowers and a speech about how I was already family. Lily and Emma had become close, sisters in everything but blood. David proposed a year after that day in the restaurant, on the anniversary of the day I'd saved Emma. I said yes. My name is Sarah Mitchell Thornton now. I work in human resources for a tech company, a career I thought I'd never have. I'm married to a man I love desperately, who loves me with equal intensity. I have 2 daughters now, one by blood and one by choice, both of them thriving and safe. My life is nothing like what it was 2 years ago when I was just a waitress trying to make ends meet. But I still remember that day in Mario's, still remember the fear in Emma's eyes, the signal she made that I almost missed. I remember the weight of her body when she collapsed into my arms, remember the relief of knowing she was safe. Every decision I made that day, from trusting my instincts to risking my life to stall that man, led me here, to this life, to this family, to this love. Sometimes the smallest moments of courage lead to the biggest changes. Sometimes stopping to help a stranger, to really see them, to trust that something's wrong even when you're not sure, can save a life. Sometimes it can save multiple lives, including your own. I saved Emma that day in the restaurant, but in all the ways that matter, she and David saved me right back. Thank you so much for listening to this story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more love stories. Your thoughts mean the world to me. Tell me in the comments what you felt and what kind of story you want to hear next. Until next time, never stop believing in unexpected moments.